So this is the first half of your vocabulary for Unit 6, Europe is Reborn. Our first word is Renaissance, which is a time period of rebirth of Greek and Roman culture in 14th to 17th century Western Europe. So the Renaissance is a time period, and it's the time period that came after the Dark Ages or medieval times in Europe. And the word Renaissance means rebirth, right? So it is a rebirth of going back to the classics of the Greeks and the Romans, and then we're going to see a lot of changes that happened in art as a result. So for the Renaissance, remember this as a time period. So humanism. Humanism is a philosophy that teaches that humans are valuable and that science, reason, and religion are all important to understanding the world. So humanism is going to be important because it's what all of these changes have in common. So because of humanism, we saw a lot of changes in art, in science, and in religion, and in the way that people learned, right? So as the word suggests, humanism teaches that humans are important, that they are valuable, that they were given a gift by God to be able to learn and ask questions, and that we should be celebrating humans, right? Which is important because during the Dark Ages, a lot of people were dying due to the Black Death, and there was a lot of wars, and it was just not a pleasant time, right? Remember that there was a lot of attacks, it was not safe, and so humanism sparked this rebirth as well. Secular means non-religious, right? So the Mona Lisa is a secular painting. So during this time, if we are focusing more on humans and them being valuable, then that means that we're not just going to be creating religious art that will be church art, right? As we saw so much of in medieval times. Okay, perspective. This is an artistic technique of making a flat surface have depth and look 3D. Right, so here we see the point of perspective, so it makes it look like there is a tunnel that's getting further away into the distance. Okay, so another way of thinking of this is like when things look close and far, right? So adding perspective and making it look 3D and having depth will make things that are far away smaller, things that are closer are going to be bigger on a flat surface, right? So that's an illusion that artists create in their paintings to make them look 3D. Okay, so here is an example, right? So if we look in the back of the painting, right, we can see that the windows are a little bit smaller, and then in the distance you can see that there are mountains, right, in the sky, whereas the table is closer to the front. So if you look at the painting and you look at this shape right here, it follows that line of perspective, right? That point of perspective. Okay, proportional. This is when the relationship between the sizes of two things is correct. Okay, so a lot of this is going to be with like with body sizes, right, that we see in art. Okay, so for example, like an infant is going to be 4 heads high, whereas an adult is going to be 7.5, right? A child is going to be 6.5, and so things need to be the correct size when they're right next to each other. And so, like I said, in this case, it's going to be referring more to the human body being proportional, right? Like your head being proportional to your shoulders, to the length of your arm, to your torso, to how tall you look, etc. Okay, so in this case, this is not proportional because Mary looks humongous, right? That is not a regular size woman. right? And she's holding baby Jesus, who also looks like a mini adult and is kind of giant size for a baby. Whereas here, right, the mom and the baby are proportional to each other. That looks like a normal size woman, and this looks like a normal size chunky baby. Chiaroscuro. This is the artistic technique of using extreme lights and darks to make objects in paintings look more 3D. Okay, so chiaroscuro. So that sounds very similar to Spanish because it's an Italian word, and it was a technique used by Leonardo da Vinci. So in this picture, we could see that there is light, and in contrast, there is dark over here. There's light on half of the face, dark on half of the face, right? Same on her face and all throughout the painting, right? So think of this as like shadowing, right? So in a natural setting, right, sun or light hits from one direction and casts a shadow on the opposite side. So that's what this is showing.